Hello and welcome to the Strategic Bookkeeper podcast. This is part 2 of a 2-part episode series that I'm doing on naming and taming the critics. In this part 2, I'm going to answer a question from one of our tribe members. So that's a member of the transformation program, where she's asked me, if the biggest critic is me, how do I tame that critic? Yeah. So in today's episode, I am going to share some things to help you with that. Okay. This will definitely be a bit of a vulnerable space for me, as sharing on these type of topics always is. The other thing that I'll let you know is when I was asked this, look, I could absolutely go down a content rabbit hole because I'm very passionate about health, about physical, mental, and spiritual health. I will be launching the Healthy Bookkeeper, which I teased about in my book. I just really need to do something called See the Matrix. So with the Strategic Bookkeeper project, the book, the podcast, the program, I can absolutely see the matrix. And I think it's why it's going so viral worldwide. And these days, if I'm going to put my heart and soul into a project, I need to do what I call see the matrix. It all needs to cascade into place, and I need to know how to create simple, high value, impactful content, which will really have an impact on the lives of the people that I create it for. Okay. So with the Healthy Bookkeeper, I feel like I'm not too far off bringing that to you. And how that's relevant to this is that I would love to give you access to a short course or a program that really helps you to build health, wealth, and happiness through mindset mastery. Yeah. I want you to think for a moment about great leaders and key people of influence all around the world. Do you see them show up criticizing themselves terribly? Or do you see them show up in this way where they step into their power and they positively affirm themselves? Yeah. And that's what you see. Like if you look at influencers globally, yeah, people that you admire, people of influence globally, they are showing up that way. Yeah. They're showing up positively affirming themselves to others. And that is self-love, self-celebration. Literally just, I think it was last night or yesterday, maybe it was Sunday night, I posted in my private Facebook group asking for everybody to give me positive affirmations. When it comes to positive affirmations, what I want to hear is I am statements, yeah, and I can statements. And in my program, whenever anyone feels overwhelmed or stuck or like they can't do it, my direction is to start with positive affirmations. Now, I could rattle on about this all day, but what I'm going to do is I'm going to jump into the podcast with you. I am going to share how you can go about really taming that critic, but also making room for that critic. We'll talk about that too. And if you've got anything that you'd like to comment, question, suggestion on the coming soon Healthy Bookkeeper, I would love to hear it. Connect with me on socials. You can go to the private Facebook group we have for the Strategic Bookkeeper. You can use my email address and just send me anything like, yes, Jeannie, I want it yesterday, or whatever, or this is what I'd really like to know about, okay, for International Women's Day. And I'd love for you to listen to that podcast that we published. Someone asked me, what do you do from the minute you get up in the morning to the minute you go to bed? Okay, so ask me anything so that I can understand how I can live into my purpose of helping women globally put themselves first, physically, spiritually, and mentally, or physically, mentally, spiritually, yeah, so that they can show up as their best selves for those they love and serve. And that includes you. You should be loving and serving yourself too. So with that ramble done, let's get into the podcast. I'm Jeannie Savage, the Strategic Bookkeeper. I've been in practice for 14 years, but more importantly, 5 years in, I achieved a lifestyle practice. This means I scaled my business, could take my hands off the wheel, and draw a nice 6-figure income while being time rich. And that's what I call my dream on my terms. I was recently awarded Women in Finance Innovator of the Year, recognizing my book, my podcast, my program, and my impact globally. The Strategic Bookkeeper is my life's work, and the opportunity to help bookkeepers globally achieve the income and lifestyle that sets them free absolutely fills my cup. Please do connect with me on socials at the Strategic Bookkeepers Way private Facebook group, or shoot me an email, hello@thestrategicbookkeeper.global. Okay, let's get stuck into this episode where we're going to look at how to deal with the biggest critic being you. So this tribe member said, I feel like I'm my biggest critic and I don't know how to deal with it. So in this episode, one of the things I want to do is ask you if you would be so kind as to let me know your demand and desire for me to provide you through the Healthy Bookkeeper with a bit of a course, like a really easy to digest, busy multitasking mama course on health, wealth, and happiness through mindset mastery. Because if the demand is there, it's going to help me with the drive to build that for you. Okay, so the way you can do that is email me, hello@thestrategicbookkeeper.global, and just let me know, like, hell yes, I would love to see you push that course out to help me with that. Okay, so that'd be amazing for me. So in this podcast, I've had to consider whether I would share some of my own stories or more of like a 5-point plan. Now, in this podcast, I'm going to give you more like a 5-point plan, only because that's what I want to do. I'm not in a place right now today where I want to get vulnerable all over the floor, okay? But I will let you know that shame is a human condition and I'm not immune just like you, okay? So now I'm just going to get into going through the key points, and there are more than 5 points. So it's a whatever point plan, so that you can maybe listen to this more than once and write these key points down so that you can think about what you're doing in each area. And maybe I'll share with you a few things that I've done in that space along the way. Now, if you haven't listened to the first part of this 2-part series, please stop this podcast and go back and listen now, because I won't really be rinsing and repeating. So when you are your biggest critic, if we look at the mechanics of that, what's happening is your thoughts are... A quick word on how to work with me. You can join the waitlist for the Strategic Bookkeeper Transformation Program, which is a world-class, world-first, described by members as mind-blowing, which typically pays for itself within a month and has a full money-back guarantee. Simply go to thestrategicbookkeeper.global/waitlist. I also have a pricing academy with a calculator and my entire suite of productized services, plus other courses and resources on my website. Email me if you have any questions, okay? Your thoughts and negative thoughts about yourself. So for example, let's say something happens and you just think, oh, you're an idiot. Yeah. Or you might feel fear, like it might be, oh, I'm scared of making a decision, or I'm scared of being alone. And then that leads to all this manifestation kind of thoughts, like I'm going to be alone forever. Or let's say when it comes to the transformation program, for example, oh, I'm just useless at this. I'm never going to be able to make it work. I'm not going to have the money to recruit team to help me. None of my clients are going to pay these fees. This is all negative self-talk, and it's criticizing yourself, okay? And I know, and all the key people of influence all around the world know, that our thoughts and our words create our world. And in fact, that's quantum physics. So that's why there's so many books on it now. The world has really evolved to understand so much more about this. And I was just listening to James Wedmore, amazing mentor, talk about a particular party where there were all these, global kind of million and billionaires. And when someone started to talk about manifestation, they all were in on it, and they were all doing, mindset kind of coaching and retreats, etc., because they were all engaged in this. And if you were to ask any of them what some of the secrets to their success is, it is this mindset mastery stuff. Okay. So If you are criticizing yourself constantly, if the voice of shame is coming up and kind of saying, who do you think you are? You're not capable. You can't do this. You're a failure. You'll never get anywhere, whatever it is. Yeah. It can be personal insults. It can be other insults. Whatever the voice of shame is creeping up on your shoulder, I want to really stop for a minute and say, what's the opposite of that? Well, the opposite of that, the place that we want to get to, which, my friends, is a journey. So think of this journey as a lap around the sun. Okay. If you're in a place today where shame's got you, shame's got its hold on you, then I want you to give yourself 12 months of doing the exercises that I give you in this podcast to go from 0 to hero. So if 0 is where that voice of shame monster, the shame gremlins, as Brene Brown calls them, has got you, in 12 months' time, you're in a place of power where you do what I did recently. Is I actually, with a really positive mindset and positive words, and with a life that I felt I'd created partly from this commitment to mindset mastery, I decided to level up again. Yeah. And I said to myself, Jeannie, anytime you think or say anything that's not 100% positive, I want you to check yourself and I want you to level the hell up. And it is like going from just 10 kilometers an hour to 200 kilometers an hour in 3 seconds. Like, the way it elevates your life and your results and so on is incredible. So I want you to think about going from 0 to hero. And I currently operate, I guess, in that hero space. So I'm going to tell you what it looks like. And I really do hope that you don't hear this and think it comes from a place of ego, because it's easy to think that. But what I'm going to tell you comes from a place of self-love, of self-celebration, and a commitment to a positive mindset and positively affirming myself. Okay. So the other day, my 13-year-old son tells me that I'm his role model and so on. And when I dropped him to his father's, when he was getting out of the car, he said, Mum, have you got a positive affirmation for me before I go? And I said, yes. And I said, I am perfect, whole and complete. I am receiving all good things. So those two I got from 2 books. One is Louise Hay. So he repeated back to me, I'm perfect, whole and complete. I'm receiving all good things. He said it again and he walked into his father's with those affirmations. So I really encourage my son to love and celebrate himself the way that we love and celebrate others. And actually, I often say to him, who loves you, kid? And the most heartwarming thing is that one day he said, I do, Mama, I love myself. And I was like, this is the stuff. This is the stuff that creates health, wealth, and happiness. Okay. So the other day I quite playfully said to him, Rory, when Mama wants something, Mama goes out and gets it. So when I make that statement, it's a statement to positively affirm myself. It's a statement that says to the universe and says to myself, I believe that I can take care of myself. I'm capable. I'm a strong, capable woman. Yeah. And when I want something, whether that's health, wealth, or happiness, yeah, I'm going to go out and I'm going to get it for myself. Yeah. I don't need anyone else, so to speak. It's a statement that really is the opposite to a lot of what we feel and hear when we're in a place where shame has got us and there's all those negative thoughts coming in. Because those negative thoughts that come in and the criticism from yourself is often around feeling not capable, yeah, and feeling needy and feeling all the things that are the opposite to the statement I just made. So hopefully you don't see that as egotistical. I like to make a lot of these power statements, yeah, like I am an extraordinary woman. I can do anything. Yeah. So statements like this, and definitely it was recently when I decided to level up my mindset with my thoughts and my words, I also leaned into a place where I told myself that loving myself and celebrating myself were not only okay, but they were logical. Yeah, I know for me in Australia, culturally, it's normal for us to love and celebrate those around us. But the minute that we speak positively about ourselves, especially something big like that, like I'm an extraordinary woman, yeah, then we're made to feel sometimes like it's egotistical. Yeah. But if I said to a friend, you're an extraordinary woman, that would be 100% okay. And that friend is often encouraged through social norms and culture to say, oh, no, I'm not. Yeah. I recently gave a friend something that I called the 100 days of compliments exercise, because he said to me, I'm not very good at taking a compliment. And I said, well, every day I'm going to give you a compliment and you're going to give yourself a compliment. And what I'd love for you to do is to receive the compliment from me. Yeah. So that you are receiving your value, because when someone compliments us, they're actually telling us the value they see in us, whether that's, I love your musical ability, whether that's, you're such a quirky, unique human, whatever it is, okay? So they're telling you the value that they see in you, and that's the value that I believe you've been put on the earth to give back to the universe, to give back to humanity. So I can go deep and ethereal on this stuff. So I gave that to him. So there's so many moving parts to this mindset gym. Yeah, it's not just one thing. So what I'm telling you here are all the different exercises and activities that I would encourage you to do in order to get to a place where you are no longer criticizing yourself. However, a place where you can also face shame, especially when shame taps you on the shoulder and really needs to come in and take a seat, because we can't pack shame away. It won't work. Shame will just keep popping through that box, okay? So just going back to that example, so I said that to my friend so that he can change his habits, okay? Because it's the habit of criticizing yourself that we need to deal with in a really multifaceted way, and absolutely receiving compliments is one of them. So as a 52-year-old woman, when someone says to me, you look beautiful, yeah, that can be, I mean, when we look in the mirror at some stages, we don't always see that, especially when we're older. So there's a place inside that can want to say, oh, goodness, no, right? But I will not do it, and I do not do it, because self-confidence and building that and positively affirming myself is so important to me that when someone says that, I take a breath and I say, thank you. Yeah. And I receive that value and I take it into my heart. Even when it feels a little bit hard, I will always show up trying my best to receive what someone is giving me. Okay. So the next thing that I want to talk about in terms of dealing with this critical you, and I want you to write down 0 to hero over 12 months, is Brene Brown's work, like Dare to Lead, like Atlas of the Heart. Her research shows that humans that can accept shame and learn to rumble with vulnerability are the happiest. Okay, so what does it look like to accept shame into our lives? Well, the way that I see it, and it's a way that we can look at people who don't deal with shame and don't deal with vulnerability, as Brene Brown says, often that's a short road to I'm better than you. And I'll give you the I'm better than you example. So let's say you have a relationship breakup. You're at a fork in the road. This is just one example. You're at a fork in the road, and one of the forks in the road is to go, okay, well, I feel pretty shit right now. Yeah. And I'm feeling lots of shitty things. And the voice of shame is firmly on your shoulder, tapping you on the shoulder, going, see, told you so. And so you've got a choice to push shame back and down and put a lid on shame. Yeah. And to do that, that might involve going out with your girlfriends, drinking too much, behaving and speaking in a way that's, makes you feel good at the time, as you continue to keep a lid on shame and refuse to acknowledge your feelings. You might also, download to girlfriends about say negative things about your ex-partner and go to a place of victim that we can all do, right? We can all go to. When we're not prepared to be vulnerable and deal with shame, then in that example, okay, it's a short road to I'm better than him. It's a short road to I'm better than, okay? Whereas when and as I said, that is just one example. So when the voice of shame taps us on the shoulder, rather than avoiding dealing with shame and the feelings and being vulnerable enough, even being vulnerable enough with ourselves, what we can choose to do, even though it is hard. Okay, so doing the hard thing is the hard thing, but it can often lead to the fulfillment and the happiness, the health, wealth, and happiness, yeah, and abundance through doing the hard thing. So when shame taps you on the shoulder, rather than try and put a lid on shame, is to say to shame, I see you, come on in. And have shame take a seat across from you. And it is hard, right? Because this is about, as Brene Brown says, acknowledging all of the things we're feeling. But I have found that we can acknowledge them in a way that we kind of let them through and we let them pass. So if you imagine them coming in through a door, sitting down, having a big yell at you, and then leaving, because I've found when I can face shame and acknowledge the feelings and just feel, like how hard it is when we feel all the things, when we feel scared and unworthy and, not capable and unlovable and all of these things. It feels so hard. But the alternative is to try and put a lid on shame, and it doesn't work. So to let shame in and acknowledge the feelings, I think, is one of the keys. And I would direct you to Brene Brown's work to read on that. When I've been in that place and I've chosen to acknowledge my feelings, I'm just going to tell you what has helped me and what I recommend you do as well. So the first one may surprise you, and it's nutrition. So in order to put my physical, mental, and spiritual health first, I prioritize my nutrition, and I put nutrition at the center of all of those things. And to do that, I use Kate Shanahan's Deep Nutrition book and her way of eating. I am an absolute pain in the ass with how strictly I follow it. I get to eat the most amazing, delicious food that I never thought I could eat, but I am very, very strict. It has improved my physical and my mental health extraordinarily. Yeah, so it'll deal with anxiety, it'll deal with everything. So the first thing I recommend is that you read Deep Nutrition. It's a heavy read, and I found it better on audiobook. And you live and die by the human diet that she teaches you in there, because it will improve your brain function as well as your body function very quickly. And I believe that's one of the keys, okay? So we need to strengthen our body and your brain. So the next one is the victor or victim fork in the road. As I talked about, I think I might have talked about it in International Women's Day, and we did publish that as a podcast. But there was a point in my life when I was young where I feel like I hit a fork in the road, and it was victor or victim. And I decided to fight and be a victor. Yeah. So the victor it's ownership, accountability, responsibility, and the victim is blame, excuses, denial. Do I occasionally fall into blame, excuses, denial? Yes, I do. Yeah, I'm human and I can fall off that cliff as well. But on the whole, I am ownership, accountability, and responsibility. I am the victor. Yeah. So if I ever find myself blame, excuses, denial, it's like watching myself from a distance. It's like an out of body experience where I'm like, what is going on? But that is the number two. So number one was nutrition. Number two is really looking at your behavior, your words and thoughts, because it is one way or the other. Yeah. You're going to either head in the victor or the victim, and you need to head to victor, ownership, accountability, and responsibility. The third thing is putting yourself first. So when I learned as a mum to put myself first, which like most mums, I thought was hilarious, ridiculous, and it wasn't even what you're meant to do. Like you're just meant to put your kids first, and then probably your family as well, like your parents and your siblings, and then, your husband as well. And we end up coming last. When I learned the hard way through really going to the edge where I was at risk of keeling over, when I realized that I had to put myself first, physically, mentally, and spiritually, it was just the big key that led me to realize that when I got myself right, it was the only way that I could show up for my son, in a way that was how I could serve him best anyway. So there was no point putting the kids first anymore. I needed to put myself first, okay? So for me, that looked like writing my top 3 priorities on a whiteboard. and it said, me, I come first, my physical, mental, spiritual health. From now on, whenever someone asks me to do something, I'm going to ask myself if this serves one of my top 3 priorities. So I come first. Number 2 was my son. He was young at the time. I think he was only about 5. And then number 3 was what I call my purpose. Okay. So my purpose in life, which is the projects that I show up and do, like the strategic bookkeeper. Okay. So that's number 3. It's you have to find the way to put yourself first. So number 4 is the positive thoughts and words. Okay. Now this one is going to take some time because it's all about changing habits. So we're going to let the voice of shame in and we're going to acknowledge our feelings. Okay. And I do recommend journaling. So this is what I've done. So the tougher the time I'm going through mentally, the more I journal. I mean, I will sit down and journal a lot, okay? And when you are journaling, you've got to let whatever comes out, comes out. Yeah, you've got to acknowledge the feelings and go through the shit. And then what I found is I could find a pathway to kind of a place of self-compassion. So I remember in 2023 when I was journaling, I quite like writing poetry. And suddenly I was writing a poem and it was all about Me Too. And basically it was talking about like I fell over, Me Too. And I was imagining all these women around the world with all the things I was feeling, like I felt scared, Me Too. You know, all the different things I was feeling that women were saying, Jeannie, Me Too. And I didn't feel alone and I didn't feel like the only one. And it was the most incredible part of my journaling that helped me to rise up again. And the next thing that I did is I found myself journaling about all the things I was getting right as a mother. At the time, my son was about 12 or 13, and it was the first time in his life that I had ever positively journaled and kind of positively reflected on what I was doing right as a mother, because as a mum of a special needs child, I was always focused on what I wasn't getting right, okay? So then I basically began to write down in my journal all this celebration of myself and everything I had achieved and everything I had got right, okay? So I went through a process of facing shame head on, acknowledging the feelings, feeling like a shit, yeah, leaning on friends to just have a bit of a laugh with me about it and help me through it, which is amazing. But then to a point where I could feel supported by everyone else feeling the same thing, and then celebrate everything that I was getting right and that I had achieved and that I got right. Because one of the things that feeds the critic that is you is this constant looking at what you haven't done and what you haven't achieved. And that is normal, but it's not helpful. There is science and data on celebrating and reflecting on what you have achieved. And this is like a muscle you build. So while I was in a place early in 2023 where I was self-critical, facing shame head on, thinking about everything I couldn't do, everything I hadn't done, yeah, then within a short period of time, I turned that around to a place where I was focusing what I had got done and celebrating myself. And I noticed that today with my friends, with myself, I'm in this habit of doing that all the time. Yeah. If something happens that I've got to deal with a hard situation and deal with fear and insecurity, of course, I'm going to have to sit across from shame again, and I'm going to have to do all of these things again. But I actually feel so much more confident now to do it, that I've been through the process, that I absolutely credit Brene Brown for helping me with. I also love Louise Hay. Haven't read her work for 30 years, but still love her. The last one is kind of linked to Brene as well, but to a few other things. So I have a concept, a speaker topic, something I'll be running retreats on called Start With You. And I talk about some of these things in my book, but I don't think I call it Start With You. No, I don't. So doing Brene Brown's values exercise. So if you Google Brene Brown values from Dare to Lead, you'll see it. So doing the values exercise that she talks about in Dare to Lead, then that is amazing in getting to know yourself. I truly believe you need to put an effort into understanding your values, your human needs. So doing the human needs test, Yeah. As an entrepreneur, I believe you need to do your wealth dynamics profile. Absolutely. You need to know your love languages and more. So I think for me personally, and when I'm working with people, with friends, with clients, with business buddies around the mindset related to building health, wealth, and happiness, start with you is where I start, and they're always mind blown. So that's kind of the last part of what I want to talk to you about. So my friends, that is a wrap. So that is your 6-point plan. Please feel free to listen to this again and write them down on how you're going to deal with that critic. I'll probably circle back around and just talk about, in terms of the positive thoughts and positive words, it is about daily positive affirmations that you combine with your journaling. Yeah. Because you want to really, like I did, say to yourself, I'm going to level up my mindset around my thoughts and my words. So while acknowledging the feelings, also going to your journal so you can get to an authentic place of moving from criticizing. Like, the criticizing can still be going on while you're also saying, well, okay, over here I feel, for example, like I'm not capable, but then over here you can say, well, you know what? I've achieved this and this and this. And then you can go into the positive affirmations and make a commitment to keep going with them. Okay. So they are I am statements, I can statements, and statements that exist in the present. Okay. So for example, I am an extraordinary woman. I can do this, things like that. Okay. I am perfect, whole, and complete. I am receiving all good things. I am capable. I can do this. I can do anything. Yeah. So they're very in the present moment affirmation, positive affirmations. And absolutely, that is the mind gym. You need to do these positive thoughts, positive words in order to change your mindset. And it's not going to happen overnight. Yeah, it's going to happen over time. And if you're new to this, yeah, give yourself time, self-love, self-celebration. My friends, that is a wrap on this podcast. I'd love to hear what you thought. If you'd like to email me, if you have demand and desire for particular topics on this podcast, love to hear those as well. And I'll see you in the next episode. Okay, my friend, now it is time to take action. So what are you going to do with what you learned today? The way I see it, you've got two options. You can go it alone to try and save some money, or you can back yourself and go for it and join my tribe. And let me tell you, we are knocking it out of the ballpark. That's not a sales pitch. That is me serving you, dare I say, courageously. To find success, I 100% know you need the mechanics, which is like the keys to the kingdom, but you also need to get your mindset right and be super productive. And these are all things I help you with inside the program. I could go on about this forever because I really want this for you. Have a prosperous week, and I'll see you in the next episode.